To the story we all live today, the smell of smoke and a bank of haze that moved into Ontario. All of it originating in Quebec with wildfires that have prompted warnings here in the GTA. Global Sean O'Shea is at Woodbine Beach tonight. Sean.
Alan, we've been reporting this spring on wildfires in Alberta, in Nova Scotia, in Quebec, and in Ontario. But today, people living in the biggest city in the country and people around in the GTA could smell the effects of those wildfires. Today, if you went outside, you definitely would smell it, and depending on where you were, you could also dramatically see the effects. What you probably couldn't see would be the Toronto skyline. It was not easy to see. However, we talked to people who were still out exercising, many telling us they were unaware of all the smoke hanging over Toronto, although they could smell it. By noon, Environment Canada issued a special air quality statement warning people about the risks of breathing the smoke, about being outside, but people were still enjoying the warm weather despite what experts were cautioning about.
More people are going to be exposed, and especially folks who are most vulnerable to these impacts.
You know, regular air pollution has been related to a greater incidence of diabetes, hypertension, development of asthma in children and adults, shortened lifespans in populations around the world.
So serious risks, and those experts saying this is not just a one-day event. And as we heard from Anthony Farnell in the last half hour, things are going to be worse tomorrow than they were today. So be mindful if you are in one of the categories that were spoken about. People with respiratory concerns, pregnant women should be mindful about staying inside or away from most of this smoky air tomorrow. Alan?
Okay, some good advice there. Thank you, Sean. And officials in cottage country are urging people to avoid outdoor fires. There are active forest fires to the north, concerns that could push them further south. Shallima Maharaj is in Bobcaygeon tonight. Shallima, the risk level is extreme where you are?
That's right, Alan. And really here, we've been hearing so much from officials about, don't burn. There's no need to burn. And truly, here the advisories that are in effect, those officials are urging people to heed some of those warnings. Getting outdoors, being out here, it's par for the course in cottage country. It's why people come to enjoy. But certainly, they want you to do so cautiously. It's peaceful here in Bobcaygeon. Then again, that's part of the allure of Ontario's cottage country. What isn't is the smoke being generated by forest fires.
I did notice that there was the smell of what felt like campfire in the air, and I did notice a lump in the back of my throat.
I don't think I've ever seen this. Not to this extent. We've had fire bans before because just dry weather, but not like this.
Joe Stanek has a cottage near Minden, one of several areas declared a restricted fire zone by the province.
Yeah, so right now we are seeing an extreme fire hazard across much of the Northeast, in particular cottage country as it stands now. That factor is based on low levels of precipitation that we've seen over the last few weeks.
Currently, there are 47 forest fires actively burning in Ontario.
So it is important for folks to check on the restrictions with their local municipality in addition to the restrictions that are imposed through the province. They could be different, and you do have to follow both sets of rules that are associated with a fire ban and a restricted fire zone.
In the city of Kawartha Lakes, a special air quality statement is in effect, thanks to smoke plumes from forest fires in Quebec and northeastern Ontario. But so far, things have been relatively calm here, and they'd like to keep it that way. So you just moved the needle to between extreme and fire ban. So what does that mean?
So ideally, the difference between the extreme and an actual burn ban, it's more of a voluntary burn ban. We're asking people really don't burn. There's really no need to burn.
Especially not at a time like this. Now, we reached out to the Insurance Bureau of Canada for some tips on fire prevention as well as safety. And among those tips was one that included keeping flammable objects, for instance, keeping gasoline and solvents, for instance, away from your home. How far? By 10 meters at least. The other piece of advice that should seem very obvious but often gets forgotten is to keep your information on hand, specifically your policy number. You just never know when you're going to need it. Alan?
Thank you, Shallima.